Hi and welcome back to OBS Studio tutorial part 3. Well, this is where I actually get down to showing you how I do streaming in OBS Studio. Welcome back, and as I said, I will show you how we're going to stream using OBS Studio tutorial. Well, the first thing that we have to do, obviously, is get into OBS Studio tutorial. I hope and assume that you have already downloaded OBS Studio and the NDI plugins and tools, or rather the NDI tools, and installed it on your computer. So let's jump right in to OBS Studio. When you open OBS Studio, you normally come to this screen. This is what you see. To start with, I will explain what each part of the screens are. This is where your broadcasted image or video is shown. On the left here, we have scene list. You create scenes on the side, and each scene will have sources. There can be different kinds of sources. To add a source, you hit the plus button, and these are all the different types of sources that you can receive. On this side is the audio mixer. If a source has audio in it or sound, you will have a fader here with the levels coming in. On this side here, we have the screen transitions. We have fade, we have cut, and we can add some more transitions like a swipe, slide, if we have a stinger, a fade to a color, or a luma wipe. On this side here are the controls. To start streaming, to start recording your stream. When we say start streaming or start recording, what happens is this, what is in this window, is what is being streamed and all being recorded. We have the studio mode here. The studio mode is the mode that I normally use, and I suggest you use the studio mode as well. Then we have the settings. We'll quickly run through the settings. Most of the settings can be kept as it is without too much change. The general settings are fine as they are. We'll move on to the stream. The stream is where you set up the service that you're using. If I stream to YouTube, so it's on YouTube, but you have a few options over there. It's already selected the primary YouTube ingest server, and this stream key is a key that you get from your YouTube Studio channel. Now that key is a hidden key. You should not share it with anybody else, because if you give them that key, they will be able to stream to your channel. So please be careful with that stream key. Next, we go to output. We have the video bitrate. We normally stream at 2500 kbps. You could increase it depending on your computer and your internet bandwidth. The encoder is software, because I don't have a separate hard graphics card on my Mac. So I'm using a software encoder. The audio bitrate 160 is good enough. That's about it. This is your recording part. If you're going to record, these are just general recording settings. Let's move to the audio. Sample rate 44.1 and stereo channel, that's fine as it is. Video. Now this is an important part. If you're going to stream at full HD, then you'll have to keep it at 1920 by 1080p, even the output scale resolution. But I normally work, the stream that I use, we use at 720p. So I'll put this back to 1280 by 720. Change the output scale resolution as well to the same. Now, being in India and I have an advertising background, working on advertising films, I will stick to the frame rate of 25 frames, and India follows the PAL format. Hotkeys are keys that you can set up for each scene so that you can control them from your computer keyboard. Advanced are some advanced settings which we can pretty much leave as it is. So let's move on. Now, as I said, you're greeted with this blank screen after changing it into studio mode. So let's go ahead and add a few scenes. So by default, there is one scene here, and the way I work is I have about 5 or 6 scenes for my church stream. So let me add those and show you how I do it. Now please remember, I told you I'm using 3 computers. My other 2 computers, that is my PPT computer and my Skype computer. They are both connected and NDI is running on both the machines, especially the PPT computer. I have scan converter running, and on the primary screen is the PowerPoint, and on the secondary screen is the projected PowerPoint slide. That is what we are going to be using in OBS. So let's get on to our first scene. Now, in my first scene, I have a couple of different sources. First, we will go and we will name the scene. Right click and let's rename it. This is my welcomes scene. You need to click outside. Enter normally on the Mac does not take in the value of the name that you typed. So let's move on to sources. Now the first source that I have usually is a watermark. So that is an image that I have already created and it has a little bit of transparency. So let's go and let's add an image. So image, we'll call this logo watermark. I strongly suggest that you start naming your sources properly, logically, right from the beginning itself, and make it a habit to do that. It helps you in the long run because later your existing sources will come here and it will be easy to identify this way. So let's go ahead and say OK and browse. So we have logo. Okay, now this image, as you can see, looks a little big. So I'm going to make it a little small. So we need to just about do that and drag it here and let's put it to the right hand side top corner. Now that is done. Next, a source that we're going to do is a text. So we can keep this source so that we can add maybe a person's name or something like that. So let's go, okay, add text. Let's call this speaker name. Okay. And here we will type speaker name. We have some options over here for colors and two colors to gradient, an outline or a drop shadow. I normally put an outline and a drop shadow. If you go up higher, you can select font and you can select pretty much any font that you want that is available to you. Okay, just for kicks, let's do that. We can bring this down. If you right click on this, you have different options. You can go to transform and we can put center horizontally. So it's kind of there in the center. This is the visibility of your different sources. So right now I don't want the speaker name. So let's turn that off. I've kind of fixed my logo. So I will lock this. So that position is there. And let's move the logo up because that always needs to be the topmost layer. So that's done. So the next source that we're going to do is we're going to add some audio. So now let's add some audio playlists so that we can have some music or something playing in the background. So let's add and we'll put VLC video source because I'm going to use it as a video source. But it's audio. It can be audio or video. So right now we'll call this audio playlist. And say OK. We'll add a few files here. Okay, let's add these 3 songs. Okay, so that's added. Doesn't matter, the order of this does not matter. Next, let's add a welcome slide. So we're going to add a welcome slide next. Add this, that's also an image. So let's go to image, welcome slide. Okay. Come here. Welcome. Yeah, let's open that. That's okay. Now I've already created this and aligned it, keeping in mind the 720p resolution that we're going to stream at. So that's okay. Let's take this a little lower. Next, we want to add a text saying that we will start shortly. So let's add a text over here, and then we'll say here, we'll call it starting shortly. So let's type the streaming will begin shortly at 10 a.m. IST. Okay, let's bring that down here. Right click, transform, center it. Okay, now what we can do is we can make this scroll. So let's right click on that and add a filter to it. Come to a filter and we have scroll over here. So scroll, that's okay, that name is fine. And we can turn this and we will see the text scroll over there. We make a little bit of change because of some typos. Stream will begin shortly. Let's put a few spaces so that there's a bit of a gap. And we need to realign this. The streaming will begin shortly at 10 a.m. IST. Okay, so that's good. We can lock that because we don't want to move that. Finally, let's put a video background. So let's add that, and let's add a media source. So media source, let's call this video background. Enter. Let's look at okay, this looks good. Let's open that. We'll put this to loop. Restart when it becomes active. Fine. Show nothing. No, that doesn't matter. Close while file is inactive. That's okay. And we don't want it to show nothing when playback ends. It shouldn't end because it's on a loop. And let's say okay. We can right click over here on the video background, go to transform and say fit to screen. So that fits to screen. So now if we want to see all this that we've done, just stream it, we need to transition it. Here we have a cut and fade. We can change the fade time. Let's put it to 1 second. That'll be 1000 milliseconds. Okay, so now let's fade and then you will see. Now the video background is on the top, so you can't see that. You can't see anything else. So let's move things down, move the video background right to the bottom. Now this is the use of the preview screen. So we can preview what we do, and once we are okay with what is ready, we can transition it. I also have one more source, which is another text there, which has the date of the stream. So let's call that current stream date. Okay. Live stream on 30th Feb 2021. Okay to that. We can move it in here, give it here. We could make it a black font, so we can make it a little bigger also maybe. It's on 32, let's change it to 48 and see how that looks. And we will change the font color to black. And this one also to black. And we can right click here and transform, or we can right click over here as well and transform. Let's center that. Cool. Then transition. So now we have our first scene ready with various sources. Now as and when needed, we can turn on and turn off sources. So this is the welcome screen, and as you can see there is music playing, so I can adjust the level over here. It seems to be a little loud, so I'll take it off. Just about touching red is good enough in terms of level. This video background over here does not have any sound, and we don't need any sound, so we can just mute it. In case you want to hear and monitor what is going on now, then you need to change this. Go to Advanced Properties and select Monitor and Output, and then you will hear what is happening on your broadcast as well. For now, I'm going to turn it off. So that's scene 1 that we created. So let's move on and create another scene. The next scene that I'm going to do is a filler loop. In case I need some time to transition between a video or a speaker or something, it's always good to go into your transition loop so that you can have everything fixed and then move on to the next scene. So let's do a transition or rather a filler loop for now. For starters, I'll just right click on this and I'll duplicate it and call it filler. Now I don't need that text, so I'll take that off. Starting shortly, no, I need that. I'll change the text for that. I don't need an audio playlist, so I'll remove that. Logo watermark can be there and it can go to the top. Welcome slide, that is okay, it can be there. Speaker name also I do not need. So video background we're going to keep, but we don't want this background, so let's remove this one. And let's add a new media source. Video background 2. Let's select something else. Shooting something. Okay, done. Video background, we need to bring it down so that it's behind, and we will add some other text like please stand by for the next speaker / presentation. Get a few spaces there. Okay, right click on it and we will center this horizontally. So let's take a look at this. Now that we've got this ready, let's take a look at the next one. And there we have it. We've now created 2 scenes, a welcome scene and a filler scene in case we need some time while we transition to another presenter, speaker or presentation. So now let's move on to adding a 3rd scene, which is my Skype caller. So for starters, we'll just duplicate this one and we'll call it Skype caller 1. Okay, we need the watermark, so we'll leave the watermark. We don't need this text, so we can remove this. We don't need the welcome slide, we can take that out as well. Video background also we do not need, so we can remove that. And now remember we spoke about NDI and how Skype has NDI integrated into it, so this is where it comes in handy. So let's add a Ndi Source. So we'll call that Skype caller 1. I'm saying caller 1 in case we have multiple callers, because callers appear as different sources in Skype. Let's say, okay, it's already in use. Okay, Skype caller 2. Forget the name. Anyway, source name. As you can see, my MacBook, I have Seanbot. That is me actually coming from another calling from another source. So let's for now just add that. Now as you can see, it does not fit exactly, but there's an advantage to that, and I'll show you what we can do. We can crop this. We can use Alt key, and then we can crop this over here and on this side and on this side, and we can do that to get the image there. Or let's just reset transform. Now this is a smaller image. We can make it to fit. Right click and we can say fit to screen, and that fits to screen. We'll move it down so that the watermark is there, and then the moment we hit transition, Skype is on and the caller is on as well. You don't see any audio because I muted the mics because I was getting feedback. So that's done with Skype. You can add multiple callers, and each caller's name will come according to their Skype ID as an Ndi source. So now let's move on to the next scene. The next scene we're going to do is we're going to add the PowerPoint presentation along with the caller, so that when the caller speaks, you'll also see the presentation that is there, and the caller's image will be like a picture in picture. So let's move on to that. So let's duplicate this one, and we will call it Skype PPT. Okay, we need Skype, so that's all right. We can now add a new Ndi source, which is going to be the PPT computer. So this is NDI, and we'll call it PPT. So we have Rave Notebook Graphics Screen 1 and Graphics Screen 2. Graphics Screen 2 is the projected secondary extended display. So let's add that, and there we have that. So that's come right on top here. We need to fit this. We can select the edges and we can drag them. We'll turn off the Skype for now. Or let's just right click and say fit to screen and see how that goes. Okay, it's a little off, so let's kind of resize it here. A little bit down here. Okay, so that's good. It always helps to lock these screens. Let's move it down so we have the watermark on top once more. Okay, so when we transition to this, we see that, and Skype call is right now hidden. So let's turn off the screen so that we can see the Skype caller. Turn that on, and let's make this smaller. You can hold shift to do it proportionately. Bring this down. Let's turn on that. Let's move it here, and using Alt we can crop this image. Hey there. Hey, and there you have. So now we've created Skype as a picture-in-picture over our PowerPoint presentation. We can change slides in PowerPoint like we normally do, and they should change over here. Remember one important thing, set your image and your slides so that they don't overlap, or your Skype image, which is a picture-in-picture, does not overlap on text that may be important. So I normally have my Skype image quite small, and I keep it on either one of these corners, and I make sure that I don't have any text where the Skype window is. So now we've created 4 scenes. Any doubts, please feel free to put it in the comments, and I'll try and respond to you as early as I can. Now let's just add a normal video source. For example, a worship video that has been recorded already, or a sermon that has been pre-recorded. Let's add that. So let's come in here and we can duplicate this, and we will call this, say, worship video. Okay, we can remove the Skype sources and the PPT sources, and now we will add a media source, and this is going to be video, say, worship. So let me come and add a file. We don't want it to loop, so we are not putting loop. Restart, what it means by restart is when you change the scene and come back to it, it has to restart from the beginning. So that's what we're going to do. And show nothing when playback ends means when the video is over, it'll show you a black screen. We can leave it on the last frame, whatever it is. And we'll check close file when inactive. That's basically to save resources. And say OK. Let's move this watermark back up, and now let us move to the video. So that's cool. Now we've got our worship. And finally, you can keep adding your different scenes like this, and depending on what sources need to come into the scene. Remember, whatever you're doing over here, when you're ready, until you hit start recording or start streaming, nothing's going to happen. And once your entire show is ready, you come to your welcome screen. In YouTube, you have to go and you have to get your stream key, enter it in the settings, come here and hit start streaming. If I hit start streaming, it's going to start streaming actually, because I already have a key. So I'm not going to hit start streaming. And then you hit transition, and there we go. So this is like a basic ways to get streaming running on OBS. I hope you guys found this interesting and simple enough. If you have any doubts, as I said, please leave a message. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like it, and share it with those who you think might find it useful. Until the next video, cheers and goodbye.